Why, hello, everybody. How's it going? Wait, I need to click things, don't I? Anyway, who needs to click? Welcome to the Scaling Summit. Yes. Okay, so this is going to be exciting. I'm very excited. And we got some great faces. Okay, so I was supposed to start off the day with a rant on scaling. And I do rant, but I'm going to try to keep it productive because it's easy to get emotional. But it's very hard to make sense of EVM scalability. This is a topic which is riddled with bad information, misinformation, confusing information, both intentionally and unintentionally. And so I'm going to just talk a little bit, kick us off, talk about scaling, talk about what it means to scale up the EVM. And so first off, the topic at hand, the problem with gas per second. This is our classic measure. And look, I've been a proponent of using this as a metric, as how we talk about scalability in the blockchain space. But the problem with it is that I have already solved our need for teragas, our need for gigagas, our need for petagas, and it is called multiplying those opcodes. We're just gonna make the opcodes big, so we get a big, big number. We've got teragas per second, baby. In fact, by the way, there are chains, which I don't think, I'm gonna give the benefit of the doubt, it wasn't for the memes, but they have actually done this. So we do have some like gigagas, petagas chains out there that multiply their opcodes, which is really fun. But truly, gas is not a real metric. It's not, I don't wake up as a user every day and I'm like, okay, I want to consume some gas. That's not really what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to send transactions. I'm trying to, take out a loan. I'm trying to pay for my college. I don't know why. In crypto? I don't know. But the reality is that gas is the metric that we have adopted and that we use because we needed it, right? We absolutely need it. But ultimately, what we need from crypto systems as we are growing up and getting into this enterprise era is we need to actually talk about what are they enabling? What transactions are people doing and how many transactions can they do? What is the latency of those transactions? And that is really what limits the throughput. And so how do we actually, what are the scaling bottlenecks? We're talking about this scaling conference. Well, we've got a whole host of them. And I honestly could talk about each one of these for a very long period of time, but unfortunately I only have 15 minutes and I'm really here to kick us off and give us a high level overview. But trust me when I say, we are cooking on each one of these independently, and they require independent solutions. The solution to state access and Merkleization are going to be different, even though they're interconnected. History of growth and block distribution, how do we scale up RPC access? This is a real set of challenges that we are facing, and the solutions are real impact to real users. They are what enable the transactions per second. But unfortunately, we spend our time, unfortunately, doing a lot of benchmarks with synthetic white room environments that are not actually representative of real metrics, real usage, real performance. And as I said, we don't even sometimes use the same metrics that we're measuring in, and it's too easy to game the system. And so the numbers really don't translate in practice, oftentimes. And so what does that end up meaning? Well, the reality is that the real usage is very different from the synthetic benchmarks that we cook up very frequently. We are trying to get to a point, and we are iterating towards this over time, to have benchmarks that are actually representative, but it's also benchmarks that are representative of the traffic that you are actually trying to put on your chain. Not every chain is going to have the same usage profile. And we're seeing a stratification of usage profiles for chains emerge immediately, from payments chains to DeFi chains to lending. All of that will require different use cases and different usage patterns. And then also, we have the most confusing thing, which I really could get into a kind of insane rant on, but that is the fee markets get really tricky, because the moment that you scale up one aspect of your chain, if you're charging too little for another resource that you haven't scaled, then you are incentivizing spam. And we see this takeout chains. Essentially, they optimize for one use case, but then they ultimately don't see that in practice because people are spamming a different use case on their chain and they can't actually sustain the load. And so here is where I talk about the production capabilities, production scalability, and I talk about how we are growing fast with Optimism in production, right? This is my shill slide, but really, like, what matters is the actual real world usage of blockchain networks. And look, this is a great, growth trajectory, both for us as well as the industry, but it is not what is going to carry us into the next wave of innovation. The next wave that I see in crypto kind of broadly is customization on a per chain basis that optimizes for the specific use cases for that chain. And so that customization is what will enable both higher throughput as well as differentiation for each one of these chains. If I am a payments chain, I'm going to want dedicated payment rails that enable my users to transact at maximum speed. If I have a certain cryptographic operation that I need to perform all the time, I'm going to need to cache that cryptographic operation and make it really fast. And this is ultimately how we not only create higher throughput chains, but also differentiated chains. Why would I use one chain or another? And so what are we doing? And you're going to hear about a lot of fun things that people are working on today. But what are we doing here? We're making it so that it is possible to customize your OP stack chain to different use cases, smart contract acceleration for OP stack chains, custom fee markets so we're not incentivizing spam, pluggable builder policies so that you can actually order transactions in the way that is best for your use case. And so what is the path forward? Well, first off, we're standardizing the benchmarks. And this is an industry-wide effort. Shout out to the Ethereum Foundation as well. And we need to get to a point where we are not just talking about gas or vanity metrics in a white room environment. And secondly, we're actually making the OP stack extensible and customizable so we're ready for the next wave of scale. And then finally, what is the next wave of scale? It is bringing institutions on-chain, migrating the global financial system on-chain one at a time with differentiated use case after differentiated use case. And it's kind of where we're going, and that's where we're headed. And thanks for chatting. I'm excited for today.